Hi there, it's Julie. Welcome back to another Creative Design Team collab video. This month we are playing with specialty papers, and I chose this Dreamy Holographic paper for my project. I also wanted to try my hand at Slimline cards. They've been popping up everywhere in the crafting world. Now, if you're wondering what size these cards are, just take out a business size envelope. These envelopes measure 9 by 4, so my base cards are going to be approximately 8 by 3.5. I've also gone ahead here and I've pre-cut all of these beautiful pieces from the Stitch Together Cricut collection. So one tip I wanted to share with you is that I've gone ahead here and I've cut these 6 by 6 squares and I've placed them all on my Cricut mat. I've moved my images around and I've cut all of my pretty butterflies in one pass. Now this is a great time saver. Now for the messy part of this project. I decided to make my own background paper. Now I think you've seen me do this before. I'm just going to go ahead here and I'm going to take some ink. I'm going to put it on my all-purpose mat. I'm going to add just a little bit of water. I'm going to pick it up here with a piece of plastic and just apply it to the white base. Now isn't that fast and fantastic? Look at this. Super beautiful, and it takes no time at all. Now this piece of plastic is from just those plastic bags we get the pattern paper from. You can cut it whatever size you want, and what I like about it, it's got a really nice weight to it and you can reuse it time and time again. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to do all of them at the same pass. I'm going to do all the messy work at the beginning, and I also am going to let it dry so that I can assemble my cards easier later on. So here I'm going ahead and I'm doing card number 2, and I'm using ballerina ink because that's the cardstock color that I've married up with that holographic paper. And this last card here I'm showing you that I've gone ahead and I've pre-scored all of my bases, and I'm going to do the entire base using wisteria ink. Now, this is so fast, this technique, so the more water you use, the lighter shade you will get as you are picking up the ink from your all-purpose mat and just dropping it directly onto your card base. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to add a little bit of splatters here and there with the plastic, and there you have it. It's all done. So I've got these 3 beautiful bases that have been pre-designed if you want to match the cardstock, but I've got this little black, I guess, body part in the center, and I wanted to add a bit of splatter. Here I'm pulling out a very old re-inker, but you know what? When you buy quality products, they last a long time. So I'm just going to go ahead here and I'm going to add a little bit of water onto my brush, and then I'm going to squeeze just a tiny little bit of re-inker directly on my block, and I'm going to pick some of that up and I'm going to splatter that directly on that base. Now the reason why I used the small rounded brush is because I wanted tiny little splatters. The bigger the brush, the bigger the splatter, and in this case I wanted to have like the less is more, and I didn't want to have them overpowering the nice colors that we had just done at the back. And you can see here that I didn't even add more ink. I just continued on with some light taps across my finger, as you can see, and it just makes these really pretty tiny little black splatter all over that base. Now that's going to be a problem, but you know what, that's a problem for later. We're going to keep on doing the outside, and here you see me again. I just went in and I added just a little bit more ink, and I'm just going all over the card and I'm adding a little bit of splatter here and there. Now, I told you this was the messy part of the project. So let's start card number 1. Now the base is nice and dry, and I'm using this super cool paper. It's very distracting when you create with it. It's just so pretty. So I've gone ahead here and I'm going to cover the entire card front with the holographic paper. So I'm going to fold this over and I'm just going to place that on the front, and I'm using here double-sided tape. Now this is an important tip. Do not use liquid glue on the holographic paper. It's going to leave a line, whatever line you have at the back of like the glue line, it's going to show through at the front. So definitely use double-sided tape for the back side of your holographic paper. Here I am using liquid glue, but I'm gluing that on the front of the holographic paper, so there's not going to be anything showing through. I'm going to add my butterfly here, and I decided to kind of cut him in Design Space. It's been sliced, and it's going to come from the side of the card, and I'm just going to shape it a tiny little bit, and I'm going to add it right to the center, or just a little bit slightly off-centered. I'm going to glue the top portion to the cardstock. Now, all of the cardstock colors that I've used the light side. As you know, the Close to My Heart cardstock comes in dark and light, so for this project I've used all of the light side, the light shade of it. So I'm going to add that little body in the center. I'm going to use 3D foam tape, and I'm just going to tack him onto the middle of the butterfly. And I really like my micro tip scissors for this because the double-sided tape does not stick to the scissors, so just another time saver tip here. I'm going to add a couple of glue dots underneath his wing so that it kind of pops up. And this card is pretty much done. Now, as I was designing this card, I couldn't figure out what sentiment to put on it, but I did pull out my sequins, and these actually match perfectly. I don't know if you can see them in there, but when you put them close to the holographic paper, some of them are exactly the same tone, so I thought that was pretty cool. So you see me here kind of picking through and getting the ones that match exactly the paper. And I just thought that that was really cool and a lot of fun. So this is card number 1, and we're going to get back to this card because I'm not quite done with it, but I wanted to move right along to card number 2. So card number 2 is I've got a front panel here that I'm going to use dimensional foam, and I'm going to pop that up. Now you see me here using quite a bit of 3D foam tape. You don't need to put it all the way down, but this is something that I just like to do because it gives it more rigidity. But if you want to just put little pieces, that's fine too. And here I'm going to put down that first piece, and again, I'm not using glue, I'm using Tombow because I don't want to see the lines of the glue in back of my holographic paper. I'm going to pull back my double-sided tape, and I'm going to pop that right on the front of the card base. Now I've got one try at this, so hopefully I can get it down nice and straight, and there you go, it went down beautifully. So I really like the dimension that it gives me when I'm adding the 3D foam tape. And here I'm going to add the little circles. So again, those little circles are from the Stitch Together Close to My Heart Cricut collection, and it's the oval that is in that collection. So I resized it into a circle, and I'm just going to add it to the front of the card. So this was done with white glitter paper, and it just really finishes off that circle at the front of the card. So we're going to put together our little butterflies. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the two pieces together, so the holographic paper and the cardstock. So here we're using ballerina, and I'm just going to add the little bodies in there, and then we're going to shape them. So you kind of have to let them dry a little bit before you start shaping them, but I just thought that I would put them all together, and we can just move on with the next phase of this card. Now, I told you that this paper was very distracting. Every time I look at it, I want to move it around and play with it. It is so cool. It picks up all of the colors in the room when you're playing with it. When I was actually creating this project, it was a really gloomy day outside, so this was really cheery and fun, and I just really liked it. So we're going to add our little butterflies, and as you can see here, I'm just kind of curling those little wings back, and I'm just using my bone folder, and I'm just pulling back on their little wings to give them a little bit of dimension and shape. And I'm using 3D foam tape. I'm using the thin 3D foam tape, and I'm just going to add it to the body and then just stick that right on the card front. And this card here is done. Again, I still don't know what I'm going to do with the sentiments, but you know, I'm just going to keep on going with what I've got. So again, I'm going to go and pick through all of my sequins here and just pull out all of the ones that match this really nice dreamy holographic paper, and I can understand why they called it dreamy. It is really nice to play with. So here we're going to card number 3, and I thought, why not give this holographic paper like a really cool kind of texture? So I pulled out my scoring board, and I'm just scoring the lines all the way down like at 1/8 of an inch, and you'll notice that the paper starts to curl up, but that's fine, we're just going to glue it down. But I just thought it gave it a really cool effect. So you can see here that you've got this really neat effect going across that paper. So the only thing you need to do is you need to add quite a bit of glue. So I'm just going to run it all the way to the back on all of the edges, and I'm going to cover the entire piece with double-sided tape. And that's just going to hold it down, and it's not going to curl up anymore. So we're just going to pop that onto the card front, and we're going to kind of finish card number 3. So off camera here, I was looking at my craft table and I saw that I've had the stamp of the month, and I thought, oh well, this is going to be a nice stamp to add to this collection. And because I was adding a little bit of black, I decided to add some black cardstock underneath that panel. So yes, I did lift it and then I put it right back, but I just thought that the stamp of the month was really nice, and because I kind of messed up the inside of card number 3, I was able to do a really cool element on the inside. Now this piece was fun to make. It was done in Cricut Design Space, so I just used a few circles, and this one here was done with the Stitch Together collection. So since we're using specialty papers, I thought, well, why not bring in a little bit of vellum? It's nice and it's soft, and I'm gonna just go ahead here and finish this card. So we've got our little sequins. I kind of got organized and picked out the ones that I wanted to use. I'm gonna put down my little vellum foliage underneath that circle cluster, and we're gonna add our little sentiment on this card. I really like these sentiment. Like, you know, sometimes you're always wondering what kind of sentiment am I going to put on my cards, and honestly, they do a really good job with the stamps of the month because they always have really nice sentiments on them. So it was perfect for this project. So here I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of glue on the vellum paper. I'm just going to kind of rub it with my fingers so that it doesn't kind of go all over the place, and it doesn't really matter because it's going to be covered by these two pieces here. And I'm going to do my little trick here that I like to use my finger daubers, and I like to add glue to them. So I'm going to put a little glue on some scratch paper. I add a tiny little bit of water, and then I just sponge the glue on this piece because this piece is very delicate and very small, and glue would go all over the place. And if you think you don't get a lot of glue with the sponge daubers, you can see here that my fingers are really sticking to that little piece, but it's not messing up my card. So I really like this technique, and I hope you try it and let me know what you think of it. So here I'm adding that circle, which was done from the Stitch Together collection, and it's done in white glitter. And we're going to add our little butterflies, very much like the other cards. We're going to add the largest one at the bottom, and then I'm going to add that tiny little one right on top. And just like that, he's going to go right in the corner. Perfect. So lastly is we're going to add this little piece of foliage, and you can actually use that same technique with the glue on a dauber, and you can daub it all the way down onto your vellum piece, and it doesn't show through. Like, you don't want to see the glue through your vellum. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to tack my little leaves down because I don't want those to get all crumpled when I put it in the envelope. And when you use a little finger dauber and just a little bit of glue and water, it doesn't show at all. So that's a nice tip for you, and I hope you give it a try. So we're almost done here, and we're going to add our sequins to this card. And the easiest way to put these sequins down is to use these micro glue dots. Now they are tiny little glue dots, but they work perfectly. They are really, really strong, and when I use these, my little sequins don't pop off my cards. I'm going to put a couple down by the sentiment, and then I'm just going to put a whole bunch of them all around that cluster of black circles, and we're going to call this card done. Now, I really hope that you've enjoyed this project. I was able to incorporate so many things in this project, from the specialty papers to the stamp of the month to trying what's really trendy right now, slimline cards. I really hope you've enjoyed this project too. Next up is Miss Carrie. I've linked her video next. Be sure to watch all of the videos from the creative design team members. All of their links have been posted below. You just have to hit that little plus button to see all of their names in the description box. Now let's go back to that inside of that card. Remember, I kind of messed it all up. It just gave me an opportunity to add this really nice panel inside the card. No one would know, except you and me, of course, that I actually kind of messed up the center of that card. So don't stop working on a project until it is completely done, because these cards turned out so pretty. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I want to wish you a wonderful day, and again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit that little gray bell to see all of my crafty projects. If you'd like to see more Creative Design Team videos, click this link right here. Thank you.